Discover the miraculous reasons behind the Jewish and Arab conflict fulfilled by God's plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the great ruler of Judah, Abraham stood in the land of Canaan, a land flowing with promise and potential. Towering oaks reached toward the heavens, their expansive canopies offering sanctuary under the sun. Yet, amidst the verdant pastures and rolling hills, the aching weight of Sarah's barrenness pressed heavily upon his heart. As countless as the stars shall your descendants be, echoed in his mind, a divine declaration from Yahweh promising him a lineage that would birth nations. Yet, time offered no fruits of fulfillment, and doubt began to creep into Abraham's soul, casting shadows on his once unshakable faith. As days turned into months and months into years, the longing for a child burned fiercely, yet still went unmet. Sarah, a woman of unwavering beauty and strength, felt the desperation of their situation keenly. One evening, entrusting her husband with a daring proposition, she offered Hagar, her Egyptian maidservant, as a surrogate. "Perhaps this is how we fulfill God's promise," she suggested, a flicker of hope lacing her words. Abraham, seeking to accomplish God's decree through his own means, consented to Sarah's counsel. That fateful night, in the stillness of their tent, he took Hagar, and she bore him a son, Ishmael. Hope at last, yet with it, the seed of conflict. As Ishmael entered the world, the dynamics of their household shifted dramatically. Hagar, once a servant, now held a status that stirred jealousy and resentment within Sarah. The air thickened with unspoken words, unaddressed emotions simmered beneath the surface. Sarah, unable to bear her mounting distress, confronted Abraham. "Cast out this maid and her son," she thundered, her voice quaking with authority and pain. The abrupt decree shattered any semblance of peace, forcing Abraham to grapple with the enormity of her demand. That night, under the vast expanse of stars, Abraham turned to God for guidance, feeling the weight of his heart heavier than the entire earth. In the silence, God reassured him, declaring that Isaac, not Ishmael, would be the child of the covenant. Yet, he did not abandon Ishmael either, promising that he too would become a great nation. With trembling hands and a heavy heart, Abraham expelled Hagar and Ishmael into the wilderness, a desolate landscape that mirrored his own inner turmoil. In the barren wilderness, filled only with fear and uncertainty, Hagar wandered aimlessly with her son. When despair overwhelmed her, she collapsed beside a spring, tears mingling with the dusty ground, pleading for God's mercy. Suddenly, the divine met her in her brokenness. An angel of the Lord appeared, igniting hope anew. "Do not be afraid, Hagar," he proclaimed. "God has heard the boy's cry. He will become a great nation." For Hagar, the promise reignited her waning faith, and she found solace, a glimmer of divine purpose amidst a parched existence. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Ishmael grew in the wilderness, he found water in the driest of places, forging a life of tenacity and strength. Little did the world know that through the lives of Hagar and Ishmael, and the destiny of Isaac, the threads of fate were weaving two great nations, one of promise and one of resilience, into the intricate tapestry of God's divine plan. With years yet to unfold, the lingering question remains: how would God reconcile the paths of Isaac and Ishmael, and what immeasurable purpose lay in the heart of Yahweh for the nations to come? And it came to pass, as the years multiplied, that Ishmael thrived in the wilderness. He became an adept hunter, learning to draw strength from the land that sheltered him. God's hand was upon him, and he took a wife from among the Egyptians. Her name was Asenath. Ishmael was a young man of great stature and skill, destined to shape a lineage that would echo through the ages. His mother watched proudly as he molded his path, her heart swelling with assurance that he would indeed be the progenitor of a mighty nation. In the tents of Abraham, time moved forward, fraught with divine promise. Sarah, too, had grown weary with the sin of doubt, and one fateful day, the Lord visited her, sending angels to declare the long-awaited birth of a son. "You will call him Isaac," they proclaimed, for I will establish my covenant with him." Her laughter, once born of skepticism, transformed into joy as the promise of God erupted like spring from barren ground. Isaac was born, a miracle graced by the presence of Jehovah. As he grew, the joy of the household intensified, but within that joy lay turmoil, for the jealousy between Sarah and Hagar did not fade. One day, during a feast to celebrate Isaac's weaning, Ishmael stood apart, mocking the joyous cries. His laughter pierced the air, igniting the deep seed of fear and anger within Sarah once more. "Cast out this slave and her son," she declared again, the words spilling from her in raw desperation. Abraham's heart was torn, for he loved Ishmael, and yet, he knew that God's covenant was carried through Isaac. That night, God spoke to Abraham in a dream, saying, "Do not be distressed because of the boy and your maidservant, for through Isaac shall your offspring be named." God reassured Abraham, promising that Ishmael would also flourish and become a great nation, for he had heard the cries of Hagar and her son. With the dawn, Abraham gathered provisions for Hagar and Ishmael and sent them forth into the wilderness once more. He watched them depart, a heavy sorrow bearing down, for he understood that his actions would stretch the fabric of love and lineage, creating paths that would forge destinies untold. Hagar wandered again, this time deeper into the wilderness, fear gripping her heart as the water dwindled. With each step, she thought of her son's future, and the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily upon her spirit. When the water ran dry, despair clawed at her throat. Hagar laid Ishmael beneath a shrub and withdrew a distance, for she could not bear to witness his suffering. "Oh, let me not see the death of the boy," she cried aloud, her voice quaking with anguish. God, who saw her tribulation and heard the cries from her heart, sent his angel to comfort her. "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the boy's voice. Lift him up, he shall be a nation." Revitalized by the promise, Hagar lifted Ishmael and guided him to a well that God had opened before their eyes. They drank deeply, and as years passed, they flourished. Ishmael became a powerful leader, fathering sons who would form tribes and embrace the desert's expanse. Over time, the sons of Isaac and Ishmael would dance upon the threads of conflict and promise, transforming into two nations that would stretch across the earth. In time, those generations would struggle in their quest for leadership and respect, unaware that their destinies were intertwined. For in the heart of God lay a greater plan, a tapestry of reconciliation that would one day reveal his enduring faithfulness. What was the mystery binding these nations together? What divine glory awaited in the unfolding of his purpose? Only the Creator of heaven and earth knew how far-reaching his plan rested, echoing through all history to bring forth peace in tumultuous times. And it came to pass in those days that Ishmael grew in strength and wisdom, becoming the father of 12 sons, each a mighty warrior in his own right. The tribes of Ishmael flourished in the wilderness, and he led them with strength, teaching them the ways of the desert, the skills of survival, and the stories of their lineage, reaching back to Abraham, their forefather. Meanwhile, Isaac, the beloved son of promise, matured in the grace of God, and he too fathered sons, who would rise to establish their own nations. The land within which the two families dwelt was not without its strife, as each tribe sought their way amidst the ancient promise made to Abraham. Tension flowed like the river through the land, ever present and quick to ignite. As time continued its relentless march, a famine struck the land, and both Isaac and Ishmael were faced with trials that would test the very fabric of their families. Isaac, moved by the scarcity of provision, journeyed to Gerar, and there received a revelation from the Lord. "Do not go down to Egypt," he commanded, "for I will be with you and bless you, to fulfill the oath I swore to your father Abraham." With obedience, Isaac settled in the land and sowed, and the Lord blessed him, producing 100-fold harvest. Within Gerar, news of Isaac's prosperity spread, reaching Ishmael and his sons in the wilderness. Jealousy took root among some of the men of Gerar, who were bewildered by the wealth of Isaac while their own fortunes waned in the drought. Hence, they approached Isaac with harsh words and reproaches. "What are you to us? You are but a sojourner, yet you've become greater than we." Isaac's heart was pained, for he sought peace above strife, yet the tensions beckoned him forth to a confrontation. He recalled the promise of God, remembering how his father had walked in faith, unyielding in the face of adversity. "I will call upon the Lord," he declared, "for this strife cannot stand where his blessing abounds." And so, Isaac refrained from further quarrels, moving to the valley of Gerar, and there he dug anew the wells of water that had been filled by his father. As his servants labored, the waters sprang forth, refreshing the land, and the name of the well was restored to its rightful name, Rehoboth, for it meant, "The Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." Meanwhile, Ishmael and his sons, hearing of Isaac's prosperity, sought to draw closer, yearning for unity amidst the growing discomfort they felt within their own ranks. "Let us go to our brother Isaac," said one of Ishmael's sons, "for our forefather Abraham taught us the ways of the Lord, and is it not the will of God that we find peace?" With that, the sons of Ishmael turned their hearts toward Isaac, bearing gifts and intentions of reconciliation. As the sun dipped low and the shadows lengthened, both families convened upon the valley, their spirits ablaze with hope yet shadowed by their histories. The air was thick with unspoken thoughts, yet they stood, each side aware of the past that divided them. In that moment of anticipation, a voice rang clear through the hearts of all present. "Will my promise be fulfilled?" asked the Lord, drawing them each into examination of his covenant. "Will you trust that I have woven your paths together for a purpose beyond your understanding?" In the depths of their hearts, stirred by the presence of the divine, the question lingered in silence. What was the thread binding them within God's sovereign plan? What awaited beyond the horizon of their tragic stories that could reveal a future transformed by reconciliation? Thus, they gathered under the promise, awaiting the unfolding of a tale that would intertwine their legacies throughout generations to come, leaving them to ponder the breadth of his enduring faithfulness. And it came to pass that on the day of convergence, Isaac and Ishmael approached one another with hearts hesitant yet hopeful. Each man carried the weight of their past, but their spirits were drawn by a higher calling. As they neared, Isaac raised his hand in a gesture of peace. "Let there be no strife between us, for we are brethren," he spoke, and his voice trembled with the weight of his words, resonating with the call of their shared heritage. Ishmael, inspired by Isaac's humility, responded with fervor, "Indeed. May we be as the stars that Abraham gazed upon, each bearing its light. Let us come together to bring forth a legacy that honors our father." The air crackled with a mixture of tension and divine possibility as the tribes watched on in silence, sensing the sacred moment unfolding before their eyes. As the two families exchanged gifts of wood and grain, and the fruits of their hands as symbols of reconciliation, a great rumbling rose from the depths of the earth, a reminder of the wells they had restored. Isaac looked to the sky, and he beheld a great cloud forming, heavy with promise of rain. "Surely, the Lord visits us in this hour," he proclaimed. "This place shall remember our coming together, for the Lord has made room for us." Ishmael agreed, and as the bond between them strengthened, the hearts of the men around them began to soften. Laughter filled the air, where bitterness had once dwelled, and fears were cast aside like autumn leaves. Yet, amidst the joyous reunion, a whisper echoed through the valley, an ancient prophecy that stirred within them. "Then shall they dwell together as one," it spoke, "and the offspring of Isaac and the offspring of Ishmael shall intertwine, a testament to the covenant of their father Abraham." The realization struck at their hearts, igniting within them a new fire. They were drawn together not merely by blood, but by the covenant God had established with their forefather. But as they feasted and celebrated, darkness loomed on the horizon, not merely the clouds of rain, but also the shadow of doubt. News arose from the neighboring tribes of Gerar. A voice arose from among them, voicing their ire at the sight of this unity that sought to bring forth a future unseen. "What will become of the land we claim?" they demanded, challenging the reconciliation that the two brothers had sought. And in that moment, the Lord stirred within Isaac and Ishmael. They knew that they must stand united against the forces that sought to disrupt their budding alliance. "Let us rise against this storm together," cried Ishmael, his voice echoing with the authority of his ancestors, reminding the tribes of the power in their shared legacy. Thus, they led their peoples forward, creating a covenant of peace, affirming their commitment to each other's welfare. For the tribes of Ishmael and Isaac declared that they would blend their strengths, raising an altar unto the Lord, and establishing a tradition of seeking him together. As they worshipped, a bolt of lightning split the heavens, and thunder roared with divine authority, declaring that this was a turning point. "The one who called you has made known the path you must walk." The voice of God resonated, a divine reassurance that the road ahead would be fraught with trials, but filled with hope. Indeed, the path was set within God's sovereign plan, and they could not fathom the multitude of nations that would emerge from their union. Yet the shadow of discord still sat at the thresholds of their promise. What awaited when trials would soon come to test their unity? For the question lingered in the hearts of all: would they endure, or would sorrows from their past unravel the tapestry of their covenant? Thus, an unseen chapter lay ahead, woven into the fabric of God's redemptive narrative, a reminder that the eyes of the Almighty were ever upon them, watching for the fulfillment of His eternal promise. And it came to pass that after a night of feasting and rejoicing, the sun arose over the horizon, casting its golden light upon the people of Isaac and Ishmael. Yet amidst the beauty of the morning lay a stirring unrest, for the elders of Gerar gathered in discontent, plotting to stir discord among the once united tribes. "It is clear that this unity threatens our dominion," spoke Abimelech, the king of Gerar, his brow furrowed with concern. "Break their bond, and let them return to their quarrels, or we shall lose the ground we have fought to claim." His words were steeped in urgency, and the elders nodded, their faces filled with resolve against what they perceived as a growing threat. Meanwhile, Isaac and Ishmael, emboldened by the divine thunder of their covenant, continued to gather the tribes in faith and unity. They spoke of Abraham's promise, recounting the covenant made with God, each word a balm upon the weary hearts of their people. "Together, we will thrive," Isaac proclaimed, his voice unwavering. "The Lord has favored us, and through Him, we shall overcome." Yet, like a cloud casting a shadow over their assembly, the voice of dissent grew louder among the tribes of Gerar. Some began to sow seeds of discord, whispering, "Why should we share our lands with those who are not of our blood? Their union will bring only strife upon us." Ishmael, sensing the rising tide of enmity, sought the Lord in fervent prayer. "O God of my father Abraham, grant us discernment and strength to stand against the winds that threaten our peace." He poured out his untamed spirit before the Lord, feeling the weight of responsibility to protect the newfound unity. Then an unexpected messenger arrived, a lone rider, weary yet resolute, who spoke of a vision he had seen. "An angel of the Lord appeared unto me," he proclaimed, and declared that the sons of Isaac and Ishmael are destined for greatness, to bring forth nations that shall wander under the stars. This declaration ignited hope and stirred the hearts of the gathered tribes. Encouraged by this revelation, Isaac and Ishmael stood together, calling upon the people to remember the promise of God. "As the sun rises high, so shall our bond grow stronger, and the blessings of Abraham shall flow like a river," Ishmael said, as he raised his hand towards the heavens. But the men of Gerar would not relent easily. They conspired to challenge the unity, gathering weapons in secret, plotting to instigate fear. "We must strike before they flourish," they whispered to one another, their hearts hardened against what the Lord had set in motion. As the brothers continued to proclaim peace, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon, not of rain, but of conflict. Whispers of war rode the winds, pushing them closer to a confrontation neither wished for. Yet through their fears, Isaac and Ishmael felt a stirring deep in their spirits, an assurance that God was weaving their destinies into a grander tapestry. "Let us not falter," Isaac said, looking into the eyes of his brother. "For our lineage carries promises yet unseen, and the hearts of many depend on our obedience. We are but vessels of His plan." Thus, the two men took their stand upon the altar they had built, reminding all that it was established in the name of the Lord. They committed their cause to Him, praying fervently for protection and courage. And though the winds of adversity loomed, a stillness fell over them, a sense of divine purpose enveloping their hearts. In this moment of unity, they could not foresee the trials that would emerge, a fruit of the conflict, reaping what their own fathers sowed. Yet just as seeds bear fruit at their appointed time, so too would their faith bring forth a legacy that leaned upon the everlasting promise of God. And as the emissaries of Gerar approached, sword and spear in hand, the question burned in the hearts of many: would the covenant endure the tempest of man's designs? Or would the fates of Isaac and Ishmael be severed by the hands of distrust? For behold, the plans of the Almighty lay deep within the fabric of history, and His purposes could not be thwarted. What awaited the brothers as the storm gathered? A revelation loomed on the edge of destiny, waiting to unveil the masterpiece of God's sovereign orchestration, one that would transcend generations and transform the very course of nations. And it came to pass that as the sun climbed higher in the sky, illuminating the faces of the gathered tribes, the air grew tense with expectation. Isaac and Ishmael stood before their people, their eyes fixed on the horizon where the emissaries of Gerar drew near, a dark shadow upon the land of promise. Behold, Ishmael called out to the wondering hearts of the tribes, "We were born of the same father and bear the same blessing. The Lord God Almighty has called us into unity, for a time such as this. Let us not be drawn away by fear, nor let doubt creep into our hearts." Isaac nodded in agreement, extending his hands toward the crowd. "We shall remember the covenant that our father Abraham made with the Lord. It is a legacy that no man can sever. Let us stand firm in our calling, for the Lord goes before us." The voices of the tribes swelled in response, affirming their faith. Yet, the hearts of the men of Gerar, emboldened by their king's decree, drew closer, steel glinting in the sunlight. Abimelech, their king, approached as a lion approaches its prey, his voice rising above the throng. "You threaten our very existence with your unity. Choose wisely, sons of Abraham, whether you will lay down your arms or prepare for battle." A murmur swept through the gathering, confusion and fear gripping the people. What would they do in the face of impending bloodshed? Isaac, sensing the rising anxiety, knelt before the altar they had built, his voice trembling yet resolute. "O Lord, you who promised to bless and multiply Abraham's seed, grant us peace. Deliver us from the hands of those who seek discord among us." Ishmael, joining him in prayer, implored the heavens, "Let not this day mark the beginning of strife among brothers. You, O God, are our refuge, let your light break forth for all to see." As their prayers ascended like fragrant incense, the skies echoed with the sound of thunder, a reminder of God's presence, a sign that he would not abandon his children. Suddenly, a great hush fell upon the assembly, for from amidst the gathering clouds, a voice emerged like the roaring of many waters. "Fear not, for I am with you," the voice resounded, filling every heart with courage. "I have chosen you, and I shall not forsake the promises I made to Abraham. From you shall spring forth a multitude as vast as the stars of heaven." The ground trembled slightly beneath them as the people felt a renewed strength surge in their spirits. The emissaries of Gerar, momentarily taken aback by the display of divine power, hesitated to advance. Abimelech's face paled, doubt creeping into his heart as he considered the might of the God they faced. Who is this God? He wondered aloud, his confidence wavering. Shall we stake our fate against the promise of a celestial legacy? Then, an elder from the tribes of Isaac spoke forth with wisdom. "If we are to endure, we must remember, what is sown in strife may yet bring forth peace." His words struck a chord, resonating deep within the crowd. Isaac, emboldened, turned to his brother. "Let us offer a sacrifice of peace, that we may unify our hearts and seek reconciliation." And so they approached the men of Gerar, holding out their hands not in hostility, but in friendship, offering olive branches of hope. But even as branches were extended, a darkness lingered in Abimelech's heart. He would not yield easily. "What guarantee do you offer that your words are true?" he challenged, eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Let the God we serve be our witness," Ishmael replied, his voice steady. "He sees our hearts and knows our intentions. In unity, we shall thrive. In strife, we shall perish." In that moment of tension, the winds of fate began to shift, whispers of destiny echoing in the air. For beyond the immediate conflict, God's hand was unraveling a grand tapestry of covenant, intertwining destinies and preparing the way for a lineage that would echo through the ages. What would be the response of the king of Gerar? Would he heed the divine call for unity, or would his heart continue to harden? The next turn in the story of the sons of Isaac and Ishmael awaited with bated breath, for the chapters of their lives would not merely showcase discord but herald the unfolding of a divine plan that would impact all nations of the earth. Thus, a question lingered, echoing from the heavens and deep within the hearts of men. What future lay ahead that would ultimately reveal the true purpose of God's sovereign design? As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows upon the earth, tension hung thick in the air like a shroud. The emissaries of Gerar hesitated, caught between the fear that gripped their hearts and the intimidating presence of Isaac and Ishmael, who stood with courage that seemed born from the very heavens. Abimelech, still grappling with the echo of the divine voice, took a step forward, his eyes scanning the multitude that had gathered. "What is this peace you speak of?" he asked, his voice betraying a flicker of vulnerability. "How can you assure us that your intentions are genuine, when the chasm between our peoples is so wide?" In that moment, Isaac raised his hands, palms open, as if receiving the very breath of God. Hear me, Abimelech. We are sons of the covenant. The God of Abraham has promised to bless those who bless us and to curse those who curse us. Genesis 12 verse 3. This is a time for blessings, not for curses. Let us not repeat the mistakes of our forefathers. Ishmael's heart pounded in his chest. He turned his gaze towards the skies that had just spoken affirmatively, inhaling deeply as he sought the words to convey the depth of their shared humanity. We stand before you as brothers, though born of different mothers. Our father Abraham sought unity, and through that unity, he received the blessing of God. Let us not squander such a legacy. Quietude enveloped the assembly as murmurs of doubt began to dim. Abimelech shifted uncomfortably, contemplating the significance of their words amidst the backdrop of divine affirmation. If I were to extend my hand in friendship, what assurances do you provide that your promise holds weight? With resolve ignited in his heart, Isaac stepped closer. I propose a covenant, one renewed amid the strife that has torn our peoples apart. Let us offer sacrifices to the Lord, and may our God be our witness. Let the very act of worship bind our hearts in unity. The tribes of Isaac began to stir, eyes alight with expectation, while whispers passed through the ranks of Gerar, debating this unexpected turn toward reconciliation. Abimelech glanced back at his men, drawing strength from their murmured support. If we are to make such a pact, it must be offered sincerely. Let each of us kneel before our God. Thus, upon a hill where so many conflicts had thrived, two groups ascended to present their sacrifices before the Lord. As the flames of the offerings rose into the night sky, a sweet aroma filled the air, mingling with the prayers of the faithful. It was then that a great wind swept through the valley, stirring hearts and ruffling garments. From the midst of the fire, the voice returned, booming forth with authority. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I have destined you for purpose beyond your understanding. Through you, I shall bring forth a multitude to bless the nations. Genesis 22 verse 18. In that moment, something profound shifted in the hearts of those present. The skepticism began to wane, fear gave way to hope, and even Abimelech felt the weight of divine purpose resting upon his shoulders. We accept your covenant, he declared, his voice steady now. In the name of our ancestors, let this day mark a new beginning. The cries of joy erupted from the tribes, and Isaac embraced Ishmael, their shared legacy widening into a grander vision of unity. Yet, as the smoke from their sacrifices ascended, an unseen darkness hovered, whispering promises of discord. Little did they know that the path of peace, though forged by faith, would open doors to trials untold and blessings unwrought. What further trials awaited the sons of Abraham? Was there a lesson to be learned through pain, one that would illuminate the true depth of their covenant with the Almighty? For the stirring of the Lord's plan had only just begun, heralding a divine mystery yet to be revealed. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the skies with hues of gold and crimson, Isaac and Ishmael stood together, the weight of their newly forged covenant heavy upon their hearts. The rituals of worship had drawn them closer, but an undercurrent of unease lingered in the air, casting a shadow over their newfound promise. What if our unity is but a fleeting moment? Ishmael mused quietly, his gaze locked on the distant mountains. Will the hearts of our people truly transform? Isaac, sensing the tremor of doubt within Ishmael, replied, we must nurture this hope with our deeds. The God who spoke to us desires not just a singular event of reconciliation but a legacy of harmony that spans generations. Remember, he is faithful to his promises. Deuteronomy 7 verse 9. The tribes began to gather, witnessing the aftermath of the sacrifices, their hearts still trembling with awe. Yet, amidst the rising hopes, a subtle discord pierced through, as word spread of the covenant to those who had not witnessed it. Some leaders within Gerar were skeptical, fearing betrayal. Others whispered of ancient enmities, igniting the embers of conflict once more. Abimelech, now drawn between these voices, convened the elders of both tribes beneath the ancient oaks. You have seen the flames that ascended to the heavens, he implored, his brow furrowed with concern. But do we possess the faith to stand firm in the face of doubt? How shall we safeguard our pledge? One elder of Isaac's kin stepped forth, claiming the right to speak. Our ancestors did not flee Egypt without trials. They wandered in the desert, finding sustenance in faith. Are we prepared to face the wilderness of our hearts, allowing the Lord to lead us, even when the path is obscured? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly, yet the seed of discord remained planted in a few, whose eyes turned dark with skepticism. How can we trust that a covenant formed in haste will endure? One voice challenged, a young man whose lineage had known strife with the sons of Abraham. Isaac rose, bolstered by the Spirit of God. I tell you, our covenant is more than mere words, it is bound by the blood that flows in our veins. The Lord Himself binds us, Ephesians 4 verse 3. Let our actions demonstrate the sincerity of our intentions. If God is for us, who can be against us? As these words echoed through the assembly, a holy hush fell, creating a moment where time seemed suspended. Each heart, torn between past bitterness and the promise of a united future, felt the weight of choice. It was then that a voice, firm yet gentle, emerged from the crowd, a woman from the descendants of Ishmael, a wise bearer of wisdom. Let us not forget the stories of our fathers, she urged, her voice resonating with the gravity of history. Abraham was tried in the land of Moriah, and through his faith, God provided a ram, Genesis 22 verse 13. Shall we not see that our struggles are part of a greater tapestry, woven by the Creator Himself? Then, the ground trembled slightly, as if the earth itself bore witness to their deliberations. A divine presence filled the air, urging them toward mutual understanding and reconciliation. And so, they knelt together, Isaac and Ishmael leading their people in a prayer for peace, beseeching the Lord for strength to uphold their covenant. But as they prayed, a shadow flickered at the edges of their fellowship. The adversary of their souls, lurking in the recesses of their minds, sought to sow doubt anew. Sinister murmurs echoed through unseen realms, plotting manipulation, tempting betrayal waiting to divide, and yet, as the sun soared higher, casting noontime brilliance upon their gathering, a firm resolve emerged. The tribes would not be undone by fear, they would stand together, for unity demanded courage that originated from the promises of God. What would the cost be, as the landscape shifted and both peaceful and tumultuous toils lay before them? Within the folds of their existence stirred the anticipation of hope. What was the culmination of this divine narrative, and how would it unfold? Would the sons of Abraham find their way through the trials that lay ahead, into a deeper understanding of their shared inheritance? For an even greater mystery of God's sovereign plan was at hand, beckoning them deeper into His purpose and shadowing both joy and burden into the journey of reconciliation yet to come. As the sun continued its zenith's watch, casting its brilliance upon the assembly of the sons of Abraham, the hearts of the gathered tribes felt the weight of their shared covenant press upon them. Determined counts of resolve began to glimmer amid the darkness cast by doubt. But as this moment of unity blossomed, a serpent lay in wait, whispering treachery into the hearts of the dissenters. Among the shadows, a man named Kemuel, well versed in the bitter history of strife, stepped forth with fervor. How can we stand as one when our lineage breeds discord? He challenged, his voice laden with ancestral pain. Shall we ignore the strife that has riven our families and shackled our dreams? For generations, we have been at odds, and can a mere gesture unite us? Isaac, sensing the growing tension, turned his gaze upon the young man, praying for wisdom to pour forth from his heart. Kemuel, hear me, he declared, his tone earnest yet compassionate. We are not merely heirs to inheritance but bearers of promise. Where our ancient paths have led us to conflict, let us forge new trails into unity. The God of our fathers spoke to Abraham, saying, "In your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed." Genesis 22 verse 18. Do we not hope to be that blessing? A staggering silence enveloped the gathering, pregnant with contemplations of a new future. However, the shadows lurked still, resonating with doubt. The tension drew tighter as each man considered the weight of their choices, the gravity of their pasts mingling with the whisper of their destinies. Abimelech, feeling the strain upon his people and the tribal leaders, rose again. Let us seek counsel, not merely from our birthright but from the Almighty who promises us a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. What if we cast aside our grievances and instead invite the spirit of reconciliation to dwell among us? Might we find strength in our weaknesses? Isaac nodded, his heart swelling with faith. Indeed, let us forge a covenant anew not only in our words but in our lives. If we are to reflect the glory of God, we must carry each other's burdens and find joy in one another's blessings. Galatians 6 verse 2. The Lord will walk with us through every shadow, every trial. And thus, prayers arose, threaded through the voices of a fearful yet hopeful populace, each stuttering for forgiveness, seeking grace. In unison, their voices intertwined like the melodies of an ancient song echoing in the mountains, reaching toward the heavens, inviting divine intervention. But as that sacred song filled the air, a sudden wind swept through the assembly, breaking their chain of prayer. All fell silent, faced with the unexpected. From among the trees, an elderly man approached, one of the remnant from generations past, a keeper of stories and ancient memories. His presence commanded attention. "Behold!" he exclaimed, raising a gnarled finger toward the heavens. "The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has not been silent in your seeking. Even now, his hand is writing the story of your reconciliation, one that will echo through generations. Known to you and yet unknown, his plan will intertwine the destinies of both the sons of Isaac and the sons of Ishmael into something far greater than a mere covenant." Whispers traveled through the crowd, the murmurs both anxious and expectant. Will our ways converge toward this divine path? Someone crackled in the gathering. Yes. The elder affirmed, a glimmer of hope sparking in his eyes. For behind every shadow lies the light of his promise that beckons. The mingling of your lineages is but the beginning of a tapestry already woven into the heart of creation itself. As tension unraveled and hope surged anew, a new mystery unfolded, a dawning realization that their journey was not yet complete, but merely a chapter in the grand narrative of God's covenantal promise. What was written in the hearts of these two brothers? What plan was unfolding that would draw them closer to the realization of a purpose beyond their current understanding, culminating in divine unity that would transcend all generations? As the elders and tribes gathered, enveloped in solemn anticipation, the air thrummed with an expectation that felt electric, as if the heavens themselves were poised to reveal their purpose. Isaac and Ishmael stood united at the forefront, gazing into the eyes of their people, their bond forged anew amidst the trials that had sought to divide them. In that sacred moment, the elder, keeper of histories, stepped forward once more, his voice steady and resonant. "You must remember, dear ones, the journey of your forefathers does not end here. Abraham's faith, tested and tried, has birthed hope that stretches across generations. As the sun rises and sets, so does his promise remain forever steadfast." At his words, hearts stirred, for deep within each soul lay a yearning for reconciliation, a divine pull toward understanding and peace. Abimelech of Gerar, noticing the flicker of hope igniting, found courage unfurling in his heart. "Will you stand with me, sons of Abraham, in this moment of truth?" he called out, his voice strong yet humble. "Let us not invite discord anew, but rather weave a fabric of alliance, securing the blessings destined for our children." A murmur of agreement swept through the assembly as men, women, and children leaned forward, their hearts entwined by the ancient covenant that had touched them all. Isaac stepped closer to Ishmael, each feeling the weight of their ancestral lineage resting heavily yet beautifully on their shoulders. "Let our lives bear witness to our commitment," Isaac declared, his voice ringing with conviction. "We will build altars not of contention but woven of faith, our offerings lifting toward the heavens." Ishmael raised his head, the sun dappling his features with a warm glow. "Indeed. Let us reject the shadows of division and step into the light of unity. May our altars reflect our hearts reconciled, renewed, ready to embrace a destiny that honors our father Abraham." As they spoke, the winds shifted gently, caressing the gathering as if whispering divine affirmation, urging them toward the path of peace intricately woven by the hand of God. Commitments were made as families stood together, casting aside the burdens of history for the mayhap of tomorrow, ushering in a covenant of peace. Elders of both tribes extended their hands, anointed with oil, signifying the divine seal upon their unity. The powerful words of the elder echoed in the air. "As you build these altars, remember that your lives shall be intertwined, not only henceforth but in a great unfolding of generations yet unseen." And so, with hearts pledged and eyes lifted heavenward, they offered their sacrifices. Each flame curling skyward became a symbol of hope, a testament to their shared vision. It rose, carrying their prayers for unity and understanding, mingling in the spiritual realm, where the divine awaited its fulfillment, days turned into weeks, and word of their covenant traveled far and wide, echoing through the lands. Tensions that once threatened to tear asunder became a tapestry of unity celebrated in many towns and villages. The tribes of Isaac and Ishmael stood as brothers once more, showing the world that reconciliation is a force powerful enough to transcend enmity. Their children grew together, learning the tales of their fathers, honoring the legacy of Abraham, their hearts entwined by divine purpose and love. The lines that once separated them faded into history, replaced by stories of shared victory, realizing that through unity, their voices would carry further than discord ever could. In the hearts of many, the stories of the sons of Abraham became a beacon of hope, a living reminder that God's promises endure beyond the markers of human frailty. Years rolled on, generations were born, nations rose and fell, yet the legacy of Isaac and Ishmael echoed through time, a testimony to the unfathomable grace of reconciliation born out of faith. And as the sun set one final time in that ancient land, Isaac and Ishmael stood together upon the hill that bore witness to their convergence, hearts full and spirits unburdened. Surely, Isaac mused, looking into the vast horizon, we are but beginning to see the fullness of his promise unfold. Yes, Ishmael replied, a soft smile gracing his lips, and may future generations embrace the call of unity, forever seeking the path of peace. Go forth, dear reader. Know that in Christ, we hold the promise of reconciliation before us, destined to bring forth hope to a world steeped in conflict. Let us bear the torch of unity, reaching into our communities, reflecting the love that binds us as one. To stay connected to His Word, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, so leave a like now. Share your thoughts, miracles, and spiritual reflections in the comments. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, we can illuminate the path for many souls seeking the light of Christ.